Hey everybody, this is Dylan of Vyper Industrial, and today I'm going to show you how to assemble the Easy Lift kit. So the first thing you're going to want to do is open up your Easy Lift kit, make sure you got all the parts. Of course, we have the instructions, the hardware kit, the seat post weldment, the cylinder, the seat plate, the lever, and the new cylinder hub. So as you can see, we first need to completely disassemble the lower portion of your chair. So in order to save time, I went ahead and completely disassembled the lower assembly of our chair. And really the only part that can remain assembled is the seat assembly with the backrest. Now you're going to reuse a lot of the same tools that you used to take the chair apart, but just to recap, you're going to need a 3/4 inch wrench and socket, 1/2 inch wrench and socket, 7/16 wrench and socket, which is new for the Easy Lift, and the 3/8 wrench and socket as well, and ratchet. Again, like in all of our other assemblies, we do not recommend using power tools. And we're going to start first with taking your existing legs and attaching them to the new cylinder center hub. So as you can see, the center hub has these little pegs machined onto it. That replaces the 5/16 18 by 1/2 inch bolt. We no longer use those, so those can be added to your collection of miscellaneous hardware on your workbench. So you're going to take the legs and attach them into the posts like so. It's a little tricky here, but once you get them one started, it goes a lot faster. And then we're going to reuse the 5/16 by 3/4 inch bolts that attach the legs together and the 5/16 nuts and use them in their same purpose to attach the legs together once again. Okay, now that all the legs are attached, you'll notice how I didn't tighten them up yet. They are still just finger tight. And we're gonna go ahead and tighten those in a sec here, but let's make sure that it's on a flat level surface before we go ahead and tighten those up. So to tighten that up, we're going to use our 1/2 inch socket and wrench. Just go around and tighten these up. Now that the legs are attached to the hub and the bolts are tight, we can go ahead and put the casters back on. We're gonna flip this upside down. Now is the time you would also want to install your tool tray as well. If you have a robust steel max with the older tool tray that has a smaller center hole, unfortunately that's not going to work with the Easy Lift kit because the hole on the tool tray needs to be larger to allow for more clearance for the cylinder. However, if you have the elevated steel max, you're good there. There's no problem. There's enough clearance between the cylinder and the tool tray that there's no issue. However, if you do have a RSM with an old tool tray, it will need the tool tray with the bigger hole. So let's go ahead and reinstall our casters using the same hardware that we disassembled it with. All right, and now that once all the casters are reinstalled, we can go ahead and tighten those up with our 3/4 inch wrench and socket. Note how I have the two locking casters opposing each other. It's not as big of a deal with the cylinder chair because obviously the seat can rotate, but ultimately you can put the locking casters however you want to orientate them. I just like to have them opposing each other. So let's go ahead and tighten these up. We want to make sure that the caster bolts are nice and tight, but we don't want to go too tight that the caster doesn't swivel. So, all right, now that the casters are tight, we can go ahead and flip it back over, and let's reinstall the foot rail with the remaining 5/16 by 3/4 inch bolts and 5/16 nuts you should have left over. Take our foot rail and go ahead and all right, we can take our 1/2 inch wrench and socket again and go ahead and tighten up our foot rail bolts. I would like to note that the assembly for the Easy Lift kit is the same for the Robust Steel Max and Elevated Steel Max. Obviously the legs are just a little bit different. and the Elevate Steel Max has the braces. But other than that, the disassembly and reassembly is the same. All right, now that the lower assembly is all reassembled and all the bolts are tight, we can go ahead and take the cylinder and just set that in there for now. And I'm going to set this aside and grab our seat assembly. So I went ahead and removed the seat posts already. If you do have the sidekick, the big boy, or the adjustable backrest, you can leave those accessories attached to the seat because the seat plate will attach right to the top or bottom, I guess, depends how you look at it, of those accessories. However, I would also like to note that the adjustable armrest accessory is not compatible at this time with the Easy Lift kit. We are gonna go ahead and start the seat assembly. So we're gonna take our seat plate and orientate it like so. And we can go ahead and open our hardware kit. All right, we are going to start with the seat assembly, and we're gonna take the seat plate and orientate it to the bottom of the seat with the holes. And we're gonna reuse the 1/4-inch bolts that you took off the original seat plate and reuse those here. We do not recommend using power tools for anything tightening to the bottom of the seat because we don't want to cross thread or strip out the inserts in the inside the seat. So now we're going to use our 3/8 socket and go ahead and tighten these up. Like I said, we don't want to go crazy with the bottom of the seat so we don't damage the threaded inserts. Now that the seat plate is tight, you can go ahead and take the seat post weldment. We're going to place that inside of the seat plate. And from your hardware kit, we're going to need the 4 5/16 by 3/4 inch bolts and the corresponding 5/16 nuts. And slide these in there like so. All right, well, now that those are all started, we can go ahead and tighten those up. We're gonna need the 1/2-inch socket wrench again. So take the box end of the wrench over the nut and go ahead and tighten these up. We got a few parts left here. We have the lever, and we need a long 5.5-inch 1/4 by 5.5-inch long bolt, the 2 1/4-inch washers, the 2 nylon spacers, and the 7/16 nylock nut. So this lever gets installed like so, with the V facing outward and the flat part facing upward, facing you. I'm going to put a washer on the bolt and spacer here. Slide it through the spacer and the lever. Grab the other spacer. Slide it through. Now we have the 1/4-inch washer and the 7/16 nut. Now we can go ahead and tighten that up. We're going to use the 7/16 socket and wrench. Now we don't want to go too tight with this because the lever needs to be able to move. So we'll tighten it up until the nylon on the nut engages and double check to make sure that your lever still moves. And that completes the seat assembly. Flip this over and attach it to the cylinder. And your chair is back in business. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about the Easy Lift Kit, don't be afraid to drop us a line, 920-301-3822, or shoot us an email, sales@vyperindustrial.com. We hope you enjoy your upgraded Easy Lift chair.